Bitcoin believers, my name's Matt. Team Bitcoin shelling out the latest news. We have a lot to celebrate, a lot to cover. Bitcoin today hit 112,000 per coin, an all-time 18-year high. What is causing this epic rocket ship to blast off? According to this article, they believe it's short covering. Essentially, you have the ability now to short Bitcoin, meaning you're betting against it. And in that scenario, you have the potential of unlimited losses. And the only way to stop the pain is to buy the asset back. If no one's willing to sell it to you, the price has to go up. And that's essentially what happened to GameStop and Wall Street Bets. If that's happening to Bitcoin right now, I could easily see it shoot up to 200,000 in a very short amount of time. Now, we are still in the young phase of ETFs and the options market surrounding Bitcoin. I'm not sure if that's exclusively the case yet. There's other factors at play that I've talked about in the past, but it's something to keep an eye on. And in my opinion, you should not be shorting Bitcoin. Second up, Trump Media has filed with the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, to do a Crypto Blue Chip ETF, exchange traded fund. Now, essentially what that would be is a blended fund of several of the most popular cryptos. So 70% Bitcoin, 15% Ethereum, 8% Solano, 5% in Ripple, 2% in Crypto.com. Essentially, what that would allow a first-of-the-kind ETF to have a blended fund with multiple cryptos traded under one ticker symbol. That would be very successful. That honestly would make Trump Media a lot of money. We'll see what the fees are. We'll see if it gets approved, but something to keep an eye on because it could be a positive for those other alternative coins. Next up, I made a prediction and it's actually come true today, and I'll play that video. One thing to note is IBIT is actually keeping their Bitcoin. BlackRock, as they buy up the Bitcoin, when there's an outflow, they're not actually selling right now, which is interesting because they're taking a page from Microtransactions. So I could see a scenario where BlackRock exceeds MicroStrategy and Bitcoin holdings. If that happens, I'm going to reference this video. I'm going to say you heard it here first. Guess what? BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF just took over. It is the largest holder of Bitcoin right now, 700,000 BTC. Now, granted, BlackRock is holding those funds for the issued IBIT that shareholders have bought up. But it goes to show, BlackRock has a lot of assets. They do hold this on their balance sheets for their customers, on their behalf. But that number is going to continue to go up, in my opinion, as people realize that you can trade Bitcoin as a stock right now with very high liquidity, high volume, very tight bid-ask spreads. It's easy to get in and out, and you can do this in a retirement account like a Roth, which I'm personally doing. Next up, Apple approves the first ever iOS game integrating Bitcoin for microtransactions. Now, I'm not aware of that ever happening within the iPhone system, but think about that. You're in a game, and if you hold Bitcoin, you could buy, a new outfit for this monkey. I've never played this game. Apparently, they tried to do this way back in 2013, but Apple's been scrutinized as far as the EU, Fortnite was another one, and they've been legal lawsuits time and time again. So they've been encouraged to take other forms of payment, and that is a positive step for Bitcoin. And I don't see this changing. I see more games integrating this type of technology within the platform. Next up, Metaplanet. They hold a lot of Bitcoin, and now they're on a potential buying spree. They want to take some of those holdings and start swallowing up other companies. This is a page out of MicroStrategy, and then some. They're trying to potentially build another bank in Japan with latest, greatest technology using Bitcoin as their underlying not only asset, but to provide potentially loans. We'll see what this turns into, but it's just another highlighting of an adoption of Bitcoin. Potential negative. Cathie Wood with ARK Investments. If you're unfamiliar with her, she is a visionary. She really thinks long term and what companies are changing the future. And she created a fund to have those within one ticker that you can trade on the stock exchange. Now, 1 year she just completely just killed everybody's returns, just hit a home run. But during the downturn, she has gone down a lot. But she's a big bull believer in Bitcoin. Well, she sold 49 million worth of the surging crypto stock. Now, all that tells me is that it was too much of the holding, right? She has an obligation to balance the fund. And if one particular thing overtakes too much of the fund, you have to trim that. It's just the reality of running a fund like that. So I think that's all that is. It's not that she's not a believer in crypto or that she's trying to time the market. It's just crypto, Bitcoin specifically, is too much of that fund. So they have to trim some. Next up, US debt rises to $36 trillion. Oh my God. Recession fears. We have all this printing of money. Social Security is going to be unfunded here in a few years. We'll just print more money and extend it all. But it's unsustainable. I've talked about this in the past. This particular article is saying, well, could this trigger a sell-off in Bitcoin down to, say, 95,000? Well, it was at 99 like 10 days ago. So, yeah, it could. But here's what I would say. Bitcoin has been tied to the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ as a risk on particular asset. And when the stock market starts crashing, Bitcoin starts crashing. It's just kind of how it's been for a very long time. Now, I'd hope for a decoupling of that because they are two separate entities. It doesn't make sense to me why Bitcoin would crash when the NASDAQ's crashing. But the only thing I can think of is people are leveraging in the NASDAQ and they need to cash out their funds in Bitcoin and bring it over to cover their short positions. However, as we get more and more adoption of Bitcoin, more and more holders of Bitcoin, especially the institutional buying, they're not going to buy and sell as frequently, especially when government's buying it. And so I see a future where the volatility goes down in Bitcoin and a decoupling of the NASDAQ and risk on assets and Bitcoin. When people truly understand what Bitcoin's trying to solve, there should be a decoupling. But this article highlights that the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, let me see the percentage. I believe it was tied up about 68%. So 68% of the time when the S&P 500 is going down, Bitcoin goes down as well. And typically, Bitcoin goes down more. But on the flip side, when Bitcoin goes up, then it goes up more than the S&P 500. And over the long term, over the last 18 years, if you could hold it out, the returns of Bitcoin have been far greater than the NASDAQ, the S&P 500. But you have to have the kahunas to hold them. Now, the last article I have here for you is, well, it's just the Bitcoin price. We're currently at 111,000. 112,000 was the high, hit around 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We'll see if it holds.